Are you saying that the empire is just getting warmed up?
Yeah, I don't want to say that in a depressing way.
We want to hear the truth, or else we can't find the tools.
Yeah, absolutely. And until people begin to come up with a sound historical analysis, which is not talking about the Jews or anything, because I mean that's just not historically correct. And I have laid out a specific pathology, if you like, that I believe is consistent. I will continue to do so, because it's clear, it's been laid out. If you read the vast amount of work that H.G. Wells has written about, and the people, what happened really, and again, Ireland is involved in this again, but with the urban civil or guerrilla war, for example, and the flying columns in the country when they were attacking the British Army, there was the emergence of a variant of actually what the Spanish and Portuguese had done when they were fighting against and fighting the Peninsular Wars with the Duke of Wellington, not a Dublin man, but this guerrilla tactics was a problem for the British Empire. And what they realized, or what they had begun to come to in the 20th century, building on what I call the empire of scientism, where they understand that, well, all technology and science can do the job of governance. This is where psychology comes from. The whole thing, it was a movement away from the spirit. 1863 again, starting period, around the time of the Great Exhibition in London. Dostoevsky comes to London and says, "Hold on a second, this is Baal. This is all this technology is Baal." Well, he couldn't believe it. It was he perceived what was going on underneath it. This is the start of the submarine cables following the British sea routes, the telecommunication, the start of this network of the world. And we had and of course you had the Civil War in the United States, and the growth of the massive armaments, building capacity. And you had the forerunner of this network, the network's global system, and the development of a political ideology to explain it, that the empire would transmute itself through a combination of socialism and capitalism working together to achieve a scientific elite governing the world. And that's laid out in the New World Order, the Open Conspiracy. It's laid out in Bernal, J.D. Bernal, The World of Flesh and the Devil. These are all in the 20s, and you can add in a range of them who were most of them were Stalinist scientists. Most of the major crystallographers and that were Stalinists. It goes with a very deep sense of materialism. So that's clear. Bukharin came over to London in 1930, and they really began to work together. And when Stalin dies, Bernal writes an obituary saying that Stalin was a great scientist, etc. So it was a deep materialism. It was a deep rejection of the spirit. Idea there would be the upper class, of course, the privileged class, the genuinely privileged people, would be able to bring in their Malthusian ideas of population control with eugenics, their breeding things, as a mode of governance on a global scale through the transmutation into corporate socialist, alternating things. And of course, the Bolsheviks were formed in London. Trotsky meets Lenin for the first time near King's Cross. Marx is based in London. You don't have to be a genius to begin to work it out. All right up to the present day, of course, you have the Soros goes study in the LSE. It's right through the imperial connection continues. Anyways, so all your UFOs and all that X-plane thing in the United States started off in Britain in 1943. The program was started a joint program, as was the computer program from Bletchley Park. When they had the AI summit recently, they're meeting in Bletchley Park, going back home because they never relinquished control. The CIA, of course, Camp X, Canada, input into the United States. Even when we're talking about Berkeley, when we look at the foundation of Berkeley, it's an extension of empire. That was what the founders described it as. So what has happened is that the use of military force through apparent withdrawal transmuted into financial, regulatory, global institutions under the rubric of certain things like humanism, for example. Humanism was altered in the 30s to become something different than a general consideration of humanism. And who is the person that defines transhumanism? It's Julian Huxley, who is recognized as a great humanist. So transhumanism came out of this brand of humanism. So anyway, the global organizations, he's, of course, becomes head of UNESCO, all these global organizations, food and agricultural organization, all the financial things, the movement of money to Dubai, the city of London, all that is linked to a transmutation. And it's nothing ethnic about it. It's nothing national, because, of course, the Normans were never really English. The early kings couldn't speak English. And then later on, they get Germans involved. It's a network, and the network, nothing got to do, no interest in the English people and the British people. They're willing to sacrifice them in their millions, and they and continue to do so. And now are wanting to call them up again across Europe. They sacrificed. These networks were willing to sacrifice their people. And again, it goes, in my view, it goes back there. And in that tradition, or as we see it in Wells, and we see it in J.D. Bernal in particular, who was the father of the science of sciences. It's his work that leads to DNA, for example, because they're looking for control of it. It's not that they're concerned about whether we can have inferior whatever. It's about the effort to control our consciousness and our body to bring in the system, sacrificing the pre-existing power. So transhumanism purports to be augmentation of the human body, and the use of the augmentation of the human body to increase the powers of the human. And so in that, you could go back to Mumford and say that when we have a car and that we become kind of cyborgs in some way. Musk saying that we become cyborgs, which is true with our mobile phones. And Harrington saying that when the contraceptive pill came, which is crucial in the story as well, in the 60s, around the same time, that this was the thing that really, in my view, gave the hippie movement progress. And that she sees that as transhumanism in the sense that it's the use of an external aid to suppress the normal biological functioning of the body. Now, apart from the birth control reason, remember that Steiner says that there would be something which would suppress our spiritual faculty. Right. So suppression is transhumanism as well. It's altering the normal expectations of the body. So when we're talking about transhumanism, we're not talking about merely helping someone who's sick receive normal or recover normal expectations. Because it always starts off, people say, oh, well, spectacles and glasses, isn't that transhuman? I said, no, it's not. If I gave you night vision by genetically re-engineering you, that would be transhuman, no problem. But a pair of glasses is not, because you're just getting what are perceived to be normal expectations of vision, and it's not permanently. You can take them off at night as well. So it's not a permanent change. And there are some things that are less controversial. Posthumanism, on the other hand, now if you look at the graphs of the use of these words, transhumanism is going up, and people are only becoming aware of it. But it's almost the end of the era, because posthumanism is continuing on up, whereas posthuman or transhumanism is leveling off, actually. Now, what people want to do to their bodies is their own business. I don't care what you want to do to your body. If you are above the kind of age of consent and are able to buy cigarettes and drink and all that, well then you can make those decisions, get married, whatever. you can do with your body what you want. Well, I'm not going. Obviously, you have some protective role as a parent in relation to your children and choices and all that. But in relation to adults making their own, it's up to them what they do with their body. But what I call network transhumanism, if you want to do to me, you want to alter my body by inserting something, by implanting something, by changing the function, that's a different thing. And this mass transhumanism is really what we have to worry about. Now, posthumanism is an idea. Again, I've written on it in the most recent book, so I'm simplifying it here. I know people say, "Oh, that's not what it is." It's just there's a whole range of different dimensions. I focus on what I call AI posthumanism. I say there's a pincer movement that the principles and the philosophy often follows the practice. This is the same thing like Galileo followed on from what the armaments guys were doing in Venice. It comes afterwards often. So the AI is what the military-industrial complex has decided will be the instrument or our control, as Philip K. Dick anticipated, and like the computer, that Mr. Computer falls out of the tree, and these automated systems, see where it's going. This is becoming the lead. So that's going. It's being, and here's the false magic. What did they say about AI? Oh, it's magic. It's not magic. It's sorcery, all right, but it's not just normal magic that happens. Oh, the genie is out of the bottle. Hold on a second. These are deliberately constructed programs. They're not something that has happened unnaturally or out of the blue. So there's a fly on the screen there. I've moved off. But the context of AI, I believe, is the military-industrial complex. This order, the New World Order, the system of governance, which intends to not just govern. They don't care about whether you feel safe in the streets. In fact, they want to create chaos in the streets so that you will succumb to this system. We've seen what's happening in China, social credit system, credit, again, behavioral science, Skinner, credit, game. You're going to live in a big computer game, and you're going to be nudged to do what they want to do until it comes into your body fully, and they don't just monitor you, but they can control you, suppress you, say, okay, your time is up. We're going to, after 50, terminate, whatever they want to do. Once they come in to your
Logan's
body,
Run.
all that. Exactly. I mean, they've been telling us and all this, and the science fiction people have been telling us. What was galling this year was them to come out and pretend, oh, we've just realized artificial intelligence is dangerous. We never realized. What a great lie that is, and they've been telling us, going back to Arthur C. Clarke and Hal, and sorry, Dave, sorry, Dave. So what a big lie that they can stand there and say, well, we've been working on this, but I never realized, it really is this. And people have bowed down before these people because they can bamboozle them with mathematics and technical terms, and they have really not confronted the emperor in this drive they have, and their curiosity will destroy us. But anyway, the AI is complemented by a philosophical move and by a descriptive move. One, posthumanism in some ways just describes what's going to happen when AI takes over, that we will be moving, we won't be human any longer in any real sense, that we're becoming a part of the machine, our humanity is not important, we'll be enhanced, you can trust them, will be enhanced and moved on as a species and change. And this is the Promethean idea. Prometheus is critical to us, the Promethean project, Gerald Feinberger. And yesterday, on Sunday, yesterday, there was an article by Boris Johnson in the Daily Mail, and in it, he was explaining, now this is a man who apparently was against the peace process in Ukraine, but he was explaining how great it was with his it's actually a Swedish lawnmower, an AI lawnmower that cuts the grass for you, how fantastic it is. And this proves all those Luddites, are wrong. These can help us, this AI robot. He's a real blustering clown that, has no shame at all. And
as you guys call him, he's a wanker. He defines
exactly,
wanker.
yeah. And in it, actually, and of course, in the same club as David Cameron, there's two things, bullying and club, same process, Tweedledum, Tweedledee, which one do you want? Same as George Bush. and Kerry in the Skull and Bones, saying Tweedledum, pick your poison. Anyway, so you can take the fool or the one that looks like the nice public school. So he says that we have to embrace this and he used the word Promethean, which is very, very interesting because it reveals that is that which I've been claiming to be. And in fact, they put an asterisk to explain what Promethean is. But that demonstrated to me what I've been claiming. See, the Promethean figure wants to steal from the gods. They hate the gods. They don't want the gods. They're titans. They're not humans. They're titans. And this is what people forget. They don't want to be humans. They claim to be doing benefits, but it seems to be in spite that they give it to the humans. If you believe some of the threadbare myths that drive these people. And the Promethean project in the 60s was launched, space travel, all that, continuing on from the British Empire to which their interest is space travel, intelligence expansion, life extension, following on from the Russian cosmonauts. This was because they said humans have no purpose. We need to give them a purpose. So this posthumanism therefore describes this movement of technology. It also describes a deliberate policy. And in this philosophical posthumanism, which is critical posthumanism, there's a literary thing which merely describes what's happening in literary things, in literary context. And Philip K. Dick is classically regarded as dealing with posthumanist themes, but the implication is that he supports these posthumanist themes, but I don't agree with. And posthumanism in its philosophical movement is a critique of the idea of humanism. It says a number of things, that there's been no fixed idea of what the human is. It's a remarkably dangerous idea. And that when there was a definition of the human, it was only men and privileged men and independent men. So therefore, a lot of the implication, according to the recent textbooks, 2023, Bloomsbury Publishing, etc., you can see them around British Museum, around the area where a lot of these other guys were based, interestingly. They say, we can't have these white, cisgendered groups of men who are independent and, etc., and we have to support the group. And what they're doing is undermining the existing power structure as they see it, supposedly supporting other groups, and at the same time pulling the rug under notions of humanism and dignity. And I believe this is a very, very dangerous movement. And it comes back to this issue of what is the human, the essential issue that Philip K. Dick was focusing on. What is humanity? What do we mean by humanity? What is the essential feature? Why do we have to protect? And also he foresaw in his posthumanist world, he's describing what will happen on this trajectory. And he begins to put elements, and when he gets this imperial thing, I believe he's beginning to perceive the reality of a constant current that goes through the Atlanticist system, that goes through, from Washington to London, and London, city of London, based on a Roman camp that when William the Conqueror came, he left it. He didn't touch the city of London as a separate, independent area. All those areas fit in and describe an absolute continuous erosion of dispiriting from Huxley in particular, 1863, the X Club. X is the key symbol of this movement. The process to move your spirit off, to give you psychology. We look at your psyche instead. That's okay. Freud, of course, lives in London. Jung comes over, gives this Tavistock lectures in London, where they have later the iteration of the Institute, which was behind the transgender thing. And even Samuel Beckett does psychoanalysis in the 30s in London. It's just a remarkable context where the whole thing is to undermine the human by dispiriting them, by focusing on their behavior, by developing technology which will control the individual in a global governance system, especially as well because they were worried in the 20s. Churchill, who was very close to Wells, wrote an essay, said, will we all commit suicide? Understanding that the atomic bomb would be, as they were beginning to understand what it was, that Wells understood, who was also Leo Szilard, conceive the chain reaction when he's walking across to the British Museum. This is another weird, in the same area. It's really weird. And he conceives it. So they understand that the things that they have unleashed will be uncontainable. And what if, the Fenians got the dynamite as soon as it came up? They began, people forget, backgrounds to Jack the Ripper and that they were blowing up Scotland Yard and things like that. What if they could get their hands on some other, what if anyone else could? So it led to a number of forces coming together post-colonial and saying we're taking out everything. We have to go for everything because the powers we have unleashed, will come back to us. So post-humanism, in my view, AI post-human, put aside the good bits, the interest in literary people who are doing interesting explorations and showing all the bits and looking at the world and looking at animals' rights. And all, put aside that book and say where we get AI as a practice and a advocacy of that, and put it together with a post-humanist philosophy. This describes the end of humanity, and it's very, very close. And there's a lot of people that don't like humans, that are quite open about that don't think humans are special, don't think that you're entitled to human dignity. That, for example, when they read Philip K. Dick and his post-apocalyptic scenarios, they criticize him, say he's post-humanist, but they criticize him for being too sympathetic towards the humans who want to maintain their dignity. This is a dangerous philosophy that could justify, in my view, the eradication of not millions, but billions of people if it's allied to other daft and dangerous technological things, military industrial complex.